Trying to reconnect. Well, hello, all of you. I am so excited. I know that I had initially advertised this starting at 12:30 today, 12, and we're a little bit late. And so if you can join us live, we're really excited to have you. As you have noticed, Marlino is not a woman.
I didn't have my wig today or anything.
Marlino, you should feel really honored. You are the first man that I have interviewed on Beauty Matters, and he is beautiful, isn't he, you guys? Give us a thumbs up and some hearts here if anybody is on. And if you join us later and you listen to the recording, feel free to add comments. We love that. Marlino's really good at, since he is a social media branding expert. There you are, Kimberly King. Hi. Give us a hearts if you think Marlino is handsome here on Beauty Matters.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Where is this going?
But anyway, what did she send us? Thank you for that heart. All the way from Victoria, Canada. That's
nice.
where Kimberly lives. So anyway, hello from Canada. Really, really excited to have Marlino with us. Marlino and I had the privilege of meeting at Christian Business Partners, and what I immediately noticed about him is he has an amazing, generous heart, and I say that really, really sincerely. Even though you have tons of experience, you are, I would say one word that I think of when I think of you is generosity.
Oh, thank you.
Just in paying it forward in a huge way. And I know even for my own journey as I'm kind of moving forward with Beauty Matters and these interviews, you've been a huge, huge encouragement. And I love your perspective on uniqueness and branding and purpose. You are purpose-driven, and I love that. And we're going to get into all of that in a minute, but Marlino, as you know, Beauty Matters is really a place where we tell beautiful stories, and it comes from the belief that we are all uniquely created, and we're created with that story, and that story is really a great way to bless other people because it's a way of inspiring all of us to live beautiful lives. So just as we're getting started here, share with us your story. How did you end up at Humanly, which is your branding company?
Yeah, so let's see. All my life I was growing up, I wanted to do advertising. But as you know, when you plan things out, things don't always go the way that you want it to go. And so on my journey, I actually worked in radio for a little bit. I worked in radio for about 11 years. And then going to school, I majored in communication, and I finished up my degree and got a communication degree. And immediately out of college, I ended up freelancing and was just doing advertising for clients that I wanted to do work with. Of course, things change, and you have to get a 9-to-5 job, and then so I ended up.
You get married, and you have kids.
Yeah.
And all that,
and so as I was, working at my 9-to-5, I decided to take a leap of faith and started an advertising company, and I wanted to target more of a Filipino urban market, and it was a market that no one ever touched, no one ever did.
Interesting.
And I always was the type that would try to do things no one else has done yet, and that didn't go as well as I wanted it to go as well. And so I went back into the workforce, 9-to-5 gig again, and I just started to realize I think I was meant to do something more. And so branding fell on my lap because working with a lot of my clients, they would tell me all the symptoms that they had for their challenges and how to market and how to get the word out of who they were. And I came to the realization that a lot of the problems a lot of people talked about weren't even marketing problems. They were branding problems, and it had to do a lot with our messaging wasn't correct, or there's fragmentation in our workplace. I looked around myself and I saw a lot of people disengaged. They weren't loyal. Customers couldn't resonate. So a lot of these symptoms made me take a deeper look into branding and allowed me to say, this is exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to help companies figure out who they were, and then help them build their business around that.
Yeah, that's huge. Now, I want to back up for just a second because in a lot of the stories that I've heard from the various women entrepreneurs that I've interviewed, small business owners, one theme that comes up over and over again is the theme of transition. And when we met together I think it was last week or a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to back up to that radio piece because there was something in your journey through radio that I found was really, really interesting and insightful in terms of that you had a boss who wanted to move you into a certain job.
Oh, got it.
But you knew that that wasn't who you as a unique person were. That wasn't your... So share with us a little bit about that, because I think that'd be encouraging.
Yeah, so early in my career, I was working as an intern at the station that I first started at, and then I came to a road where I had one option. It was either I focused solely on being, on the street team, a van driver, someone who's out on the streets, or I had the opportunity to sponge myself and, gather more information of, growing with the company.
Right.
And so when I came to that crossroad, my ultimatum was you can only do van driving, be on the streets. You can't do anything else. You can't DJ. You can't work on the boards. You can't do production. You can't do anything. And so I looked at that as a roadblock for me, and to say like, well, that's not why I'm here, Right. So I had to get validation. I went to the big guy of the company and said, hey, I'm giving...
That was pretty brave, I have to say, right?
To
go over your boss and go to the top guy. Yeah.
Well, because at that point, I think I was so confused, because I was working for free, and I didn't feel like that's all I wanted to do. I felt like I was meant to do a lot more. And so, I took the risk to ask, the big guy and say, hey, like, what should I do? And he gave me the advice of, you were working here for free. I want you to not only learn, I want you to sponge yourself in everything that you can here, so that eventually you can release it, whether it's going to be here or somewhere else.
Right.
And so I took that advice. I ended up declining the offer to do the van driving position. I got into production, which led to working on the air and actually running the boards, which eventually led to becoming a van driver. Yeah. And, a van driver in my position was great because you were the person who would be on the microphone, on the radio, just being on the streets. Right. And that all happened because I had the opportunity to come to Southern California and actually broadcast, do a phone call in front of 10,000 people.
Wow.
And so that helped me separate, I guess, from what everyone else was doing, and then it just solidified my role to not only do that, but able to do a lot of things in the radio station.
Yeah, Marlino, I think about that a lot. I think about those little choices we make that in a lot of ways kind of drive our destiny. And it was very interesting when I heard you say that. And again, I think sometimes women have intuitions that they don't act on, and they kind of hold back rather than moving forward and doing the hard thing, because I bet it would have been a lot easier just to not just to go with the flow and not to say, gosh, I really want to explore and my gut is telling me that I should move in this other direction.
Well, I think that's humans in general, right? I think in the sense that when you're faced with things that are comfortable, that are familiar, we tend to be complacent. But when things are challenging, that stretch you, that make you feel uncomfortable, you have a decision where you want to grow or do you want to stay the same. Yeah. And I think for me, I am the type of person that I want to learn. I want to extend. I want to, raise my own standards and be better than myself. And so I think, with entrepreneurs and business people, I think that's always the case too. Sometimes you get to a point where you're going to plateau, you're going to be a little bit more complacent, but then do you want to just stay there? Or do you want to get to the next level and constantly improve and constantly grow? So,
well, at my age, sometimes you do just want to slow down. But, I do. I think that the thing is you always want to move into that growth space. And I think that's really awesome. And I think something that you said that's really critical is part of that is knowing yourself, too, which is what we're going to kind of transition into, because branding really is about sort of knowing your own uniqueness. And when I was on your website, I actually read something, and I'm going to read it here. And I thought it was sort of a fairly audacious question, and I'm sure you did that intentionally. and I don't know if audacious is the right word, but I thought it's a very big question that draws you in. And when you go to the Humanly website, it basically says, do you think branding can elevate humanity? And then you say, we think so. And so to me, that's pretty audacious to think, branding is like, how can that elevate humanity? That's a pretty audacious statement, I think. So talk to us about that and really how that forms the core of your purpose.
Well, the purpose for us is really, to bring out the best in people so that they bring out the best in others. And the reason why we believe that is the purpose of what we're trying to do is it has to do a lot with what's been happening in the in the realm of business now, right? I think technology has been great, but I think it also has distanced us completely, tremendously
from people.
For example, I had a boss one time who was standing right next to me. Instead of talking to me, he typed in a messenger to tell me what he needed to say to me.
Oh God!
Versus just saying what you wanted.
Do you ever do that with your wife when she's upstairs and you text her?
I'm guilty. Sometimes I do. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's kind of the reason why I think the company exists is because we believe that we've lost a sense of truth and we've lost a sense of human interaction. And one of the ways you can get that back is through branding and through the concepts, because the concepts of branding very much are similar to self-discovery. How to evaluate yourself, how to communicate, how to be of value, and how to add value. And so at the heart of what we do, it has to do with serving. I think that's who we're a big proponent of, or what we want to be known for, is how we serve, how we communicate, and how we, just be of value to people.
Right. And I think that's such a beautiful perspective because, again, unfortunately, so many of the companies that we look at today are driven by the bottom line. And I get that. They have shareholders that they're accountable to and all of that. But it really is kind of this flip around where if you start from purpose, then the revenue will come, right? I mean, that's the reality of it. So talk to us about, I'm sure that ties into your company's name. So tell us a little bit about how you came to Human. And it's spelled H-U-E, right?
H-U-E-M-A-N-L-Y. And so the way Humanly came about, the name of it was, as I was thinking of creating this company, what would be the perfect name? And so the two things came to mind. One was true colors, which is what HUE stands for. And then humanly, and the definition we use in humanly is of human means, or, of human power. And so the belief system there was you can become an inspirational brand. You have the power to do it. You just have to choose to do it. And so humanly put together is to exist in true color, or to exist in your true self. And so that's the whole reason where Humanly kind of came about, or the name of it.
Well, and again, I think I hear you saying, what you're saying is that you start with this purpose, you start with this true self, and that is basically the framework that's going to empower everything that you do.
And the reason why we suggest that is because most of the time, you listen to the way people articulate and talk to you. Like Karen, hey, what do you do? First thing you usually start with is what you do, right? Simon Sinek, the author of Start With Why, he talks a lot about this in his book, which was a validation for why our company exists. And it was because of that simple fact. If you start with what you do, you immediately commoditize yourself against everything else they already think of at the top of their head. When you leave with your purpose and your why and your belief system, no one can commoditize that. You can't be compared to anyone.
Or compete with
anyone. Because you have a stronger sense of you that allows you to align with everything else that you do.
Right.
And so to us, purpose is really the emotional connector that really binds you with the people or the community that you want to serve and that you want to work with. Versus what you do, because what is an outcome? It's the means of getting to a result. That doesn't help you differentiate yourself.
Right.
Because if you were to tell me you're a wellness coach, or you're like a leadership coach or whatnot, I already know 10 other leadership coaches in my head, so why would you matter to me? So leading with purpose is like the driving force of just being yourself and being different.
Which, again, it's so much more interesting, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Instead of I sell or I do or all of this, it's I am is really what you're saying, right? This is what we are in our core.
It's like it's almost like the foundation of your identity, if you really think about it.
That's awesome. So tell us who does this well? What companies out there do this well? Give us some examples.
I think there's lots. Nike does this very well. Starbucks does it very well.
So what are their missions? Do you know them off the
So
top of your head?
Nike's is to bring inspiration and innovation to athletes, I think. I know I'm missing components of it. But, you know, if you really look at Nike, if you break them down, right, and from the very beginning, they never really talked about their products.
Their shoes.
Their shoes.
Yeah.
It was always about a lifestyle. Of value, like, you know, if you had like their slogan is, if you have a body, you're an athlete, right? Yeah, and so they give you the perception that if you wear their shoes, that you were an athlete, right? And then how does that embody, you know, their belief system, right? You know, they have a full methodology of what they believe their brand stands for and why they're here and why they exist. That's why a lot of people buy into their products. I mean, for one, I'm kind of guilty because I actually got rid of all my shoes that were Nike and said, I'm going to just do Nike because I just kind of align myself with that belief system. But you'd be surprised, you know, a lot of people do that, you know. So Nike, I'd say, is a good example. Starbucks is another good example. I think they're having some falters, though, of what's going on.
So give us their mission. What is Starbucks' mission?
Starbucks' mission is to nurture the human spirit, one cup, one neighborhood at a time, or something of that nature. Yeah. But it's
always so much bigger than the coffee, right? I mean, it is really about humanity.
Yeah. And another guy that just comes to mind, Gary Vaynerchuk. I mean, he's this big speaker whose mantra was, you know, he built his dad's company from a $3 million company to a $600 million company within, I think, 6 years or something like that. But what he talks about, too, is legacy. You know, like, you know, people are playing this game to win, to get money, but it's like, that's not going to get you anywhere, right? It's like he's playing the game for legacy. He wants to have this legacy that not only carries from now, but carries on to the future.
So you're with that mission statement, you are just tapping into the heart, right? You're it's that would that be the ethos? That connection.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of companies that do it very well. I think like the things to look for is, you know, you look at their purpose, right? They obviously have a purpose beyond a mission and a vision. Then you look at their core values and you kind of can compare, you know, like are they living out their core values? And I don't even know why I just forgot about this. Zappos is a huge example of this. Because not only do they live out their brand, I mean, their core values, they live them, breathe them, eat them. They're non-negotiable. You know, it's either you fit in this or you don't. And so that's another great company that does it. And, you know, they're very successful, you know, multi-billion-dollar companies. But the irony is they all started from a trunk or a garage.
Which is
a lot of people tend to forget about that.
That's a great bridge to my next question. So we're talking Starbucks, Nike, Apple. Let's bring this down to the entrepreneur, small business owner. How does that apply? Well,
the first thing I think together is, if you're an entrepreneur, small business owner, the number one thing is you cannot be all things to everyone, right? Number two is, if you're not a brand, you're a commodity. A lot of times I see.
Expand on that. Like, so what does that mean? What is that?
So when you're a commodity, that means people can, you know, they pretty much can buy off you based on price. Right. So, for example, like if you're a coach and there's another coach and then another coach, if there's really nothing that differentiates any three of them, then what's going to happen is you're going to compete on price. Who's going to be the cheapest that I'm going to afford? However, if you build yourself up as a brand and have your qualities set in place, you show of value, you are of value to someone else. People will pay at a premium because they understand the value. And in essence, you really think about it, when people buy, they don't buy the product you sell or the services you sell, they buy the person who's behind the products. So that's what I mean by, you know, if you're not a commodity, I mean, so if you're not a brand, you're a commodity. Because most of the time, like if you talk to people don't ever work on their brand. You know, it's like, what's brand now? You know, so like, I'm working on business development, I'm working on my marketing, but what, now I got to work on branding? You know, it's like one of those things that has always been overlooked. And it usually comes around when, you know, they aren't successful in advertising, or their messaging is not, you know, cohesive, or, you know, when there's something wrong, is, you know, maybe I should focus on my brand, you know, so.
Well, and Marlino, I think part of that is branding, because of social media, allows an individual to become a brand, which I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like that's a relatively kind of new phenomena.
Well, it's actually not that new, to be honest, because everyone has a brand and everything has a brand. The biggest difference is how strong or weak the brand is. So sometimes when I do my talks, one of the first questions I ask is, how many people have a brand? Sometimes majority say they don't. Then the second question is how many people invest in their brand, and majority of people say they don't. And so when they don't, then it's almost obvious you may have a weak brand.
Right.
But if you look at the companies that invest in their brand, the Nikes, the Apples, Windows, all these big companies, they have such a bigger presence because of the investment that they create in regards to the type of value that they want to share.
Right.
And so, if you kind of look at it from that basis, I think that's the big differentiator, in building the strength of your brand is, again, going back to the simplicity of it, is it starts with your purpose first. Like, why are you here?
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that does. I mean, I think, hi, Isabel. Nice to see some people here live, and hopefully, especially for the small business owners, we're adding, I know for me, you're adding a lot of value.
Okay. So now going back to the small businesses, right? Yeah. So a lot of times, a lot of the entrepreneurs think, well, I don't need to get a brand because it's just me, or, brands are meant for big companies. But if in actuality, think of like the plumbers, or think of the the handyman, right? I did this post on Facebook the other day about just celebrating Small Business Week, and I saw so many health consultants on there, and I was just asking myself, well, how are you guys different from each other? Because you're all saying the same thing,
right? And
so I think just even looking at that from a small scale, how do you differentiate from the rest of them? And again, it starts with the belief system. Because if you're saying what you do, everyone else is saying what they do. Yeah. But if you're saying what you believe in, that makes such a big differentiator. Because, again, it's an emotional attachment, right? So for example, if one of those health consultants had said, I believe in health and the approach I take is by XYZ, and that's what allows me to be a health consultant, that actually resonates quicker than saying like I'm a health consultant, because now I don't have that barrier that says I'm going to give an objection, I'm going to oppose them, because now I'm listening.
Right.
You caught my attention.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about that. So you are a small business owner, you understand you need to brand yourself. How do you really delve down into that? And what I really want to talk about is that concept of being unique.
Okay. Well, I think you are already designed to be unique, right? You were created to be, different from everyone else.
Isn't that amazing?
It is.
That's really, really amazing.
And so now how do you transcend it into business? Again, it starts with a clear and powerful purpose, right? It starts with, why am I here? Or why does this business exist? Why should anyone care? Why should it matter? And a lot of the times, like the way we found our purpose was I had to really look deep into my life leading up to this point and said, what are the commonalities that I see that allow me to do what I can do now the best? And the common thing that I saw across the board was how I serve, how to, when I would talk to people, the response I usually get is, wow, you've taken me someplace different that I never thought of before, things like that.
Yeah,
and
that was true for me with you. Yeah. And
so the purpose then was, to bring out the best in people. And my hope, or the type of impact I hope to create, was that they would do the same for someone else. And so, but see, it didn't take me, like a day to figure that out. I really had to look deep into myself, what I felt was important, what I valued the most. And what I saw was what we were good at.
Right.
And so now that's allowed me to start with that as a foundation. Right. Okay. So now that I know what my purpose is, the next thing is, okay, what does my vision look like, right? So our vision at Humanly is, it's actually kind of changing a little bit because we've been kind of going through some pivots, but right now it's to fill the world with awesome brands, organizations that, are all about really invest in people. And then our mission is really to make purpose the priority in the workplace and transform the way businesses are built. And so if you look at the two, like the vision is kind of where we want to go.
Right, okay.
Our mission is how are we going to get there.
Okay.
So if our vision was to fill this world with XYZ, how we're going to do it is our mission. And that pretty much aligns with exactly why the purpose is
So
here.
purpose and mission are actually very different.
They're very
too.
different.
Okay.
And the reason why they're different, and we have this example where we use like a triangle, like an inverted triangle, where the purpose is at the bottom, and as you go up, it's your vision and mission. Because your purpose should be the foundation that never changes. It should be the stake in the ground that would never evolve, never lose focus, because that's your purpose. Your vision and mission will change. Right? You think about it, as you evolve,
and grow and make different kind of impact, then it's going to change.
Exactly. And so most of the time, a lot of companies, their vision fades or their mission is not the same. And so you could get hit with a hurricane or a tornado, and then the only thing that should be left is your purpose. That should not go anywhere. So that's kind of how we would set that up.
So can you translate, so talk a little bit about uniqueness. I mean, your purpose.
Yeah, so your purpose is really what helps you be unique, right? Okay. Because, again, like you can say you serve people, I can say I serve people, but yet we do it very differently.
Yeah.
But now you go deeper. What does it mean to you to serve?
Right. So how's it acted out then?
How's it acted out? Or not even that, but like, why is that important to you?
Yeah.
What is it about serving that allows you to feel fulfilled in what you're doing? So I'm asking you.
Yeah. What is it? Well, I mean, I think that you and I are very similar in that we are, people driven. And of course, I'm on this journey to figure all of this out. But ask me the question again.
So why do you feel serving people is important to you, or why does it matter?
Because to me, I come from a framework that all people matter, and I want to bring that out. I want to bring out that, so that they see themselves as beautiful and special, and that works to empower them then to walk in the place that they're called to walk.
So when we're talking about uniqueness, I mean, that alone in itself is very unique, because if you were to ask me the same question, it would be totally different, right? Or it would be subjective to my convictions. But that's kind of where it starts, with that belief system, that anchor, if you will, because it's already unique in its own identity.
Well, and again, just kind of reflecting on how I just responded to you, even beauty matters, like to me, coming from a reference that there's this much greater truth in beauty than just a pretty face, that it actually is inherent in all people. It's inherent in us being image bearers, and of course, as a woman of faith, I believe that God is the beautiful one. And so, beauty, I think, is a way of connecting with the Creator too, but we also see that beauty in each other's image.
Exactly.
Yeah. So very different probably perspective than you would come from.
And then the unique part can also stem down to your products and the services that you offer, because obviously, you have a value proposition that you want to promote, which typically is like your uniqueness, or we call it a onlyness statement. It's something that only you can do. So for example, like with us, we don't even call ourselves a branding company. We look at ourselves as a human engagement company.
I love that.
Specializes in branding and creative.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of makes us unique, because we understand branding and creative is important, but we don't think that's the only thing. We think
and I love that, because engagement implies interaction. So what that immediately tells me about you isn't just, you're not concerned just with coming out with a brand, some logo or brand. You are what's important to you is that you really understand your client and bring that to the forefront, and that's done through communication and engagement.
Yes, exactly, and relationship building.
And relationship
and accountability.
Building. Yeah. So that tells me, right, if I wanted to be your client, Marlino is somebody who cares about me as a person and my company and what I'm called to do.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. That is great. Does uniqueness and all of this apply just to our everyday lives apart from our businesses?
I think so. I mean, because I think one of the statements I used to always tell people is stop focusing so much on trying to be unique or trying to be different. You're already unique, right? Because the more that you start to focus on how to be different, you're losing focus on the side
of who you are, right? You're trying to be different.
You're paying so much attention to everyone else that you're not even looking and bettering yourself. Yeah. And so I think, in that aspect, our motto is usually raise your own standards and compete with yourself.
Yeah.
If you really want to be different.
Say that again, because that's really good.
Raise your own standards and compete with yourself.
Yeah, that's excellent.
And the reason we say that is because if you focus so much on what your competitors or everyone else is doing, then you're not focusing on how you can be the best version of yourself.
Right.
If you constantly focus on, building yourself and building your business and investing that way, you have a better chance of being, seen, paid attention to, and things like that, because you're just you're focusing on you.
Yeah,
so.
And I think the hard thing, Marlino, for me, and again, this is part of that growth journey, is to believe that we, in our uniqueness, whether we are, solo or building a company, that we actually have something that the world needs and wants.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, do you find that when you work with your clients?
Well, sometimes, because I think it's a sense of belonging. It's like when you're trying to search for a truth, you're trying to figure out a way how you fit in.
Yeah.
And I think that's where your purpose, if you figure out, what that looks like and find clarity in that, that allows you to say, I belong here. Yeah. In essence, you do. It's just a matter of, you have to believe it and understand it yourself. Because if you don't, then no one else is going to understand it either.
Yeah.
So I think, exactly what you're talking about, it really starts with you first.
Yeah.
Just knowing who you are and why everything fits underneath you.
Yeah. Which sometimes figuring out who you are is sort of a life's journey too.
And it's, like I said, it's not going to happen overnight. It does require a little bit of self-discovery and trying to figure yourself out, But I think once you kind of get a baseline, then you start working towards it.
Yeah.
It's like what they usually say, it's, your passion, when we're talking about passions and things like that, your passion doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily find it. Sometimes it finds you.
Yeah.
And so, in essence, as you're trying to self-discover and figure out who you are, it may just come to you.
Yeah.
And you'll see it a lot of times, when you have a purpose, it will shift because now you realize as you're trying to carve into it a lot more that, maybe that's not my purpose. Maybe my purpose is this.
Right.
And you start evolving and moving yourself in that direction. But the point is to start chipping away and figuring it out. And at least trying to lead with
Which
that.
is so funny you say that about it finding you, because when I started doing these interviews, it was not driven from the purpose of sharing the beauty of people with an audience. I mean, it really was, hey, I'm, starting this group and I want to add great content and I'm in contact with all these great people, and it was kind of like, hey, I'll throw them out there and add great content. And what I've realized is I love that heart connection where I can pull people's personality out of them. And I feel so blessed, and hopefully, our audience feels blessed as well, but really just bringing out the essence of people and letting them shine. And also at the end, so often people are really nervous in front of the camera, but for them to be able to say, wow, that was actually fun, And so it is. I think there is this ongoing, clarification. So just in sort of wrapping things up here, share with us a little bit specifically about your services, if there's anybody who's watching who thinks they could benefit. And I know that how our audience could potentially help you. I know there were a couple things that we had talked about.
Yeah.
Maybe you could share.
So just, our company, what our company is, we empower high achieving entrepreneurs to grow purpose-centric brands. And so how we do that is we help you find clarity in your purpose, and we place this purpose at the heart of your organization. Then we blend art, science, and leadership to transform your business into a value-creating machine.
Wait, art, science, and leadership. So define that. What is that like? Like brand, like actual?
It's a mixture of two. So like when you look at it as what we do, it's a glimpse of what we call a brand ecosystem. And so when we work with clients, what we typically do is we take them through this whole system on how to craft their brand. And we go through 6 different elements in order to help them build the equity of their brand. And so some of the services we offer is obviously, we do everything for you. That's like the big management and development portion of it. We also do brand advising. We do brand diagnostics, where we go into your company and we dissect everything and we tell you what's wrong and what you need to improve. Exactly. And then we also have the storytelling side and a creative development side. And so storytelling, in a sense, it's not just I need help with my messaging, but really how to strategically position your communication to be effective and clear to your audience. And then on the creative development side, it's, graphic design, your logos, imagery, collaterals, video, motion graphics. photography, things like that.
So really, you're kind of a one-stop in that.
Not necessarily. We don't like to say we're a one-stop shop because I think our real strength is the ecosystem and really building the brand. However, we do have the small components that we do help people with.
Right.
Like I mentioned with the storytelling and design and all the creative aspects of it. But the heart of what we do has to stem from the foundation of what your brand looks like through the ecosystem.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you.
And tell us, we'll post your website down below, and then I know you are a couple things on your website. I saw you were looking for people who are interested, and because there was a place to sign it.
So we have a goal right now to have at least 5,000 people on our mailing list within 6 months. We want to have about 100,000 unique visitors on our website. But most importantly, I mean, we do have giving goals, and our giving falls in time, talent, and treasure. And so time-wise, we want to donate at least 10,000 hours of service to people who need it. Our goal is to raise about $15,000 in donations to help people. And we want to help people at least, I think our goal is 50 people or organizations that we can just give our own advice and help to. And so where we're at with that, like our goal of the 50 people, we're at half right now, which is good.
Awesome. That's
but
great.
We need a little bit help on the donation and the time.
Yeah, people are very generous in taking from you. So you guys listen to that. So is there a place where they can actually donate?
So basically it's on our website. The donation part goes, if you work with us, we do give a portion of whatever whatever you pay for our services, we donate a portion of that.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So that's part of like our tithe or, just our way of giving, if you will.
That's wonderful. And then for those of you that are in the Temecula, Murrieta area, share with us what's going on tonight.
Yeah, so tonight we've teamed up with Borghese Marketing Group. That's kind of their temporary name right now, but it's Chris Borghese, and we're doing a branding and online marketing masterclass. And so tonight, if you're an entrepreneur, small business, startup, we're going to give you some strategic steps on, one, how to grow your business, how to stand out, how to get noticed, and to eventually prosper. So I will be leading the branding portion of it and walking people through some of the basic steps of the ecosystem and actually how to apply some of the things that we talked about to the system. And then Chris will then talk about the online marketing piece, ClickFunnels, and how to pretty much set up your website to be more of a conversion tool than just a static website that's there.
Yeah. And I know that Tara, Chris's wife, is wonderful in the whole mindset and prosperity piece as well, right?
Yeah, no, they're great.
She's great, that great couple.
Yeah, so it's going to be at the Corner Bakery in South Temecula Valley, South Temecula Parkway.
Yeah, not the one by the mall.
Yeah, not the one by the mall. The one right off Temecula Parkway, and it starts at 6 o'clock. And there is a fee. However, someone is going to go home with all the profits from the event tonight as a grand prize. So in essence,
come on out.
We're not really making any money of it because, again, we just want to be of value, but we want to make it fun for people too to understand. So
and the fee is $20
it's $20 at the door. I think right now we still have tickets, pre-sale tickets available. I mean, we still have a few seats left. But that's until, I think, before 4 o'clock. So the website for that is BOMB.tips.
Okay, and BOMB stands for?
Brand Online Marketing Masterclass.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Okay, awesome. That's at 6 o'clock tonight at Corner Bakery off of 79 South in Temecula. I'm going to be there. Marlino's going to be there. And Tara and Chris are going to be there, and so if you're, if any of this is pertinent to you that we've talked about, if you feel like you want to take that next step, if you want to talk to Marlino in person, we would love to have you. And also, if any of you have any specific questions, put them down in the comments. I know Marlino could reach out to you. Directly as well. And again, like I said, if there's one word that describes this man, it's obviously very generous and knowledgeable. And he just has a wonderful, clear communication style. So, alrighty, do you have a closing thoughts or quote for us?
I mean, one of my most favorite quotes, and it's again a validation of why our business is here, and it's by Albert Einstein, and it's to be someone of value rather than a success. And so if that's one thing I can leave you guys with is really be more of value to people and stop worrying about trying to be
what a beautiful
success story.
goal, right? Isn't that a beautiful goal?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me.
We'll definitely have to have more men on the show, I think.
I'm glad I could set the precedent.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful afternoon and evening.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.